That one loaded in about 10. Yeah. I'm only allowed so many minutes and loads a day on YouTube. Sometimes I can't remember. Sometimes okay, you've hit your limit for the day. So I'm only allowed to talk people out of mass murdering their children over money for a certain amount of time, according to Congress and the Pentagon and the Supreme Court. The judicial, the legislative, and the executive. Yeah, do. And then the Pentagon, their arm of, hey, talk your kids into fucking and fighting and killing over money there. Yeah, Lord's Prayer's a joke, right? So, hey, I am honored to, like I said this morning, to seal y'all in hell and be the living embodiment of the Lord's Prayer and, be put into the worst bowels of hell in the history of the world and come out with the keys to the kingdom and tell the quorum of the 12. NIL, seriously? Okay, just look at him and go, whoa. I had a bowel movement this morning, and boy, it was a bowel movement. It was, I had to clean out the toilet and everything. It was, whoa, was it a good bowel movement? No, it was a bowel movement. We live in the Lord's Prayer, and is our ecosystem recovering from genocide through philanthropy? Well, it was a bowel movement. Okay, you have lots of people that mass murder over money, and then eat all the right stuff and do all the right things. They have such good bowel movements. You know how all these healthy people, they have such good poops and amazing poops. It's like, it's not amazing poops. It's a bowel movement. Okay. Okay. People are being murdered over money. Okay. Some can't poop at all and die from cancer. Some have bowel movements and get to keep murdering over money and say they like it and it's fun. Okay, so is it a good bowel movement? No, they're just bowel movements. Okay. A good bowel movement, we're living the Lord's Prayer. Oh, and you're healthy and the planet's healthy? Well, good, you had a good bowel movement. Make sure you put it on the grapes over there, the grapes of Ralph. There you go. That's what not a lot of Japanese people use their bowel movements on their grapes to fertilize their grapes. Okay, but they're not living the Lord's Prayer, so it's just a bowel movement. Is it a good bowel movement? No. There's nothing good about the shit that comes out of your lying fucking bodies. They sit there and showed me in 2021, Von Elman and Ted Neely going to a building and people paying make-believe money to watch them sing songs pretending to be Jesus and Mary Magdalene from 1973. Yeah. And then singing Barry Gibb songs to pay their bills. Yeah, he looks like Jesus. He looks like an artist representation of a person that looks like me. And we're both from Britain, and we do look similar. That one lady, you look like Dr. Dre. I know. I sound like I would look like Dr. Dre on the phone, but I really look like Barry Gibb. She was like, well, no, seriously, I look like Barry Gibb, or I look like one of the Gibb brothers. She's like, no, you don't. Yes, I do. Okay. That woman was losing her mind. No. I was like, girl, you sound like the type of girl I'm attracted to. You got a double dinner tray booty? I didn't say that. I wanted to, right? But I'm like, nah, I'd definitely be very into you, because I like, I'm very attracted to dark women. And especially very vivacious figures, it's because it's fun. It's a digital display. Remember Ready for the World? Right. And so, oh, Sheila. And so, I was like, I'm very, interested, but I do not look like Dr. Dre. No, I look like Barry Gibb, girl. Yeah, at the time I was 6 foot, 175 pounds. I shortly after that married Amy Suzanne Fabre. My little Susie bear. Yeah, she's cute. Oh, Patrick, why'd you marry Amy? Why'd you marry Emily? Did I sit there and yell at you and say, you should have married Emily? You were tortured for 7 years marrying Emily. Why'd you do it? What was wrong with you? What were you thinking? Are you stupid? Gosh, worst day of my life. What do you think? You try to explain it to kids. But it's weird because I don't know. I think it has more to do with the soul than it does the flesh. Well, because I was explaining stuff like this to my mom and dad when I was not even 4 years old. And my dad still doesn't get it, and he's 89. So I'm certain it's the soul is greater than the flesh. And that the mind is just something that it thinks it's perceiving something, but isn't. If you trap the soul in the flesh, you'll torture the soul with the flesh. Right. And then you get that my dad, he writes on he draws pictures of his what he wants on his gravestone. It says, Rotten Ralph, God had no use for him. And, you're like, Dad, just stand up for the Lord's Prayer. Jesus will appreciate that. Okay. God had no use for him. God doesn't use us. God is the gift of life. And we use that gift to either, trap the soul in the mind or worship God. It's up to us. And if we trap the soul in the mind, we say things like, God couldn't use me. I wasn't good enough to be God. It's like you don't want to try to replace God with your ego. That just traps the glory of the soul in the mind. It's not that hard. You guys are just having bowel movements. You want to have good bowel movements? Stand up for the Lord's Prayer with me. Otherwise, you're just a bowel movement. All right? We all feeling a little bit better about Friedrich Nietzsche and Martin Luther now? Do you understand why their mind was so fucked? If they weren't molecular similitudes, they were very closely related. Yeah, Friedrich Nietzsche and Martin Luther, I bet you could put them on a supercomputer, and given the dynamic of the relative thought process of what is acceptable is considered human philosophy or thought, that they would both come out in the 99th percentile of the same way of thinking and trying to navigate, negotiate their mental and emotional expression with the local populace. I'd be willing to bet that Nietzsche is a molecular similitude of Martin Luther. They're a lot alike, man. It's like, yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dad read Nietzsche, and I read a little bit of. People just quoted me Nietzsche. I didn't read it. I didn't want to read it. I already read some of Martin Luther. I connected in prayer and said, yeah, okay. Yeah. That one, was it Danny, who's a nun fucker? It's like, yeah, he had lots of sex with nuns while he was in sanctuary being protected by British German noblemen from the Italian noble people. Well, because he said that the German noble people were divinely enlightened despots to be nobles of Germany to protect us from the Italian noble people that were passing themselves off as God's true people, but were imposters. And that the Germans were the true people that understood justification through faith and not through indulgences, and everybody paying them money to be the go-between between them and God. Okay, so he kissed ass to them so they wouldn't kill him and say, hey, everybody knows that you're supposed to be the head honchos of money-based fuckingdom instead of those assholes in Italy, right? And then when Nietzsche comes along, it's a similar dynamic to kiss the ass of the academic economic community, but in the way that's most appropriate in his physical structure. And a Geico lizard could figure it out. Okay, just there you go, boom, there you go. Okay. Whatever is acceptable to be said and engage in among the people that will murder you over money is what you say. You push that line and you push that line, but if you don't cross that line, so they won't physically murder you. You agree with them, they agree with you, and then you wager that after you're dead, it's all going to work out the way that you guys agree to. It's like, man, that is such eternal wretchedness, isn't it, though? So, do you get it? It's not hard. Some people are just naturally inclined to be more intelligent than other people because they submit to faith in the glory of God, tens of thousands of years ago. That's why Judah Krishnamurti is so much smarter than Houston Smith. He's more intelligent. He's just naturally, and when he was in class at University of Chicago feeding school thing for Oxford and Cambridge. Judah, you have to go in there and take the test. I'm not going to go take the test. Why? Because I'm not going to regurgitate, man, what he wants to hear. I heard him speak for a whole semester, and I'm not going to write on a piece of paper what he said on a piece of paper and get a grade for it when I don't agree with him and don't want to capitulate to his abuse of other people over money. I'm not going to do it. I may be 12 years old, but I'm not an idiot, and I'm not going to kiss your ass to, stay alive. You better kiss my ass or we'll kill you or incarcerate you. Well, then go ahead, but I'm not going to write on a piece of paper that justifies what you're doing. Okay. He was 12 years old. Those people were in their 30s and 50s going Judo, and then they couldn't argue. They had to sit there and go, okay, but they didn't tell everybody how brilliant this kid was because they didn't want to get killed by the people that run the institutions economically. Tuppence, feed the birds, right? You can't worry about Jesus. You can't worry about being physically killed. and say, I'm not going to speak the truth, because children will inherit that murder instead of the perfection of the Lord's Prayer. So you can't be worried about being killed when you speak publicly that the Lord's Prayer is eternally perfect. You can't be worried about that. If you worry about that, no one's going to say it, and children will inherit eternal wretchedness and murder over money, and they'll just be constant bowel movements until further notice. And children are not bowel movements, you rotten bags of shit. Okay? Jesus talks about a lot. We talked about that last night with the ripping the eye out, that he understood. Well, he understood science. Well, of course, it's better if you want to sodomize 3-year-olds. It would be better to take, if it was just one eye that did it, take that eye out and that memory of that eye and rip it out of your socket so you never commit that sin again than it would be to commit that sin again. Okay. That's a scientific, astute evaluation of how wretched and disgusting your eye is. And if you have to rip both out to stop raping 3-year-olds for money from the time that you put them in to get them ready to go to school, head and shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes, head and shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. I'm the map, I'm the map, I'm the map. Okay, no more money, no more chasing money, no more fighting and killing and fucking over money. Now. Okay, you're nothing but a bowel movement. And I am a man that saves your children from being bowel movements. You're welcome. Now I'm going to take a break. I'm going to sit here and relax and play a couple of football games and just decompress before I go get my little card to have my teeth financially dealt with, because you're a poisoning bowel movement instead of standing up to be a living beautiful body of Christ with me for children, right? Don't hang in there. Get up and get moving. Children have love to live, and you're fucking it away with your shit that comes out of your mouth all the time. Right? Love you.